Greetings, Star Citizens, and welcome to Flight Deck. This is a weekly podcast about Star Citizen and other gamer culture topics. I'm your host, Linkstatic MDK, and with me, as always, is Paper Thin.
Hey guys.
Today's topics we have Around the Verse episode 39, Inside CIG, the Foundry 42, Germany, Subscriber Flare April, Design Post, FPS Stances and Breathing, Note from the Chairman, Version Numbering, Star Citizen Alpha 1.1.1, 10 for the Designers Episode 2, and The Plain Truth, Calm Your Senator. Oh man, I'm glad I got through that 1.1 point whatever. That was like,
That's a tongue twister.
I'm like, Star Alpha 1, they need to stop adding points is what I'm trying to say, I think. God. So Around the Verse episode 39, this one was 38 minutes and 14 seconds long. Empire Report, as per usual, which is a good usual, not a bad usual. We had Mars is unstable, terraforming problems, so yay, we're all gonna die.
Yay.
I don't know what that means. Like, are people getting sick, or is like the planet becoming destabilized, or what's going on?
I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you there. They didn't really elaborate.
Well, when Arnold Schwarzenegger first terraformed the planet back, centuries ago, we weren't thinking
Right.
ahead about what
No,
yeah.
it's true. I mean, it was probably a mistake to send Arnold Schwarzenegger in the first place, but
Right,
you
right.
know, he
But,
seemed like the best candidate. He had experience.
he pressed the alien device and then, it melted the Martian core, which was all ice, and that's how they had atmosphere, because that's how it works.
Right. That's just science.
Yeah, there you go. Is tea making you sick? Black Mountain Tea. Yes, tea is making you sick. You should stop drinking it and instead switch to
Uh,
healthy alternatives like soda.
yeah. I guess that'll teach me to be drinking tea right now.
Well, I think you're okay as long as it's not Black Mountain Tea, so.
It's not. It's white tea, so
Oh,
I'm
okay.
good.
Okay. Wow. Five most annoying things about visiting Stanton 3, comedian. So, that made me wonder, are we going to have, like, inverse comedians? Is that going to be a profession? Because if so, I'm going to shoot them all.
You're just gonna like walk in
Yep, I don't like your
like a
set.
comedy
Boom.
like no.
That's the ultimate heckle, right?
Yes, it is something like that.
Okay.
That'd be kind of interesting if they'll have like comedy clubs where like players can like get up and tell jokes and stuff. I mean, I could see it going horrible
Well,
because people are gonna get up there and troll.
I remember, like, in GTA 4, I would go to, like, the comedy club when I'm on a date with, like, one of the random chicks that you can date in that game. And, there's Ricky Gervais. They had do some stand-up in-game. So I'm wondering, could they do the same thing with, like, actual comedians doing stand-up?
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'd like that a lot.
It would be definitely a lot better than, And then, you've got the nights where it's not comedians, it's players getting up and doing jokes.
Oh my god, that
It's
just sounds like a train wreck waiting to happen.
Just get your cricket sounds ready to broadcast over your mics.
Yeah, you'll get people from like the Something Awful forums that come in and just say the most
Horrendous.
horrible, offensive stuff they can.
See, that I would enjoy, though, because that's my type of humor, where it's like the more offensive and dark, the better.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah. Well, so that's our Empire report. Intro and news this time. They mentioned Star Citizen Alpha 1.1.1. We'll talk about that more in a bit,
You nailed
because
it
it's
again.
now.
Good job.
What?
You nailed it again. Good job.
I know. I'm great. I nailed it every time. I'm great. We'll talk about that more in a bit, because it's now out. It's no longer just in the PTU. It's actually out, so that's pretty sweet. And Chris Roberts is in London for Squadron 42 film shoot. It's all very hush-hush on who's involved, but, Reddit had a couple of forum posts about, dream casting and who they'd like to see. Personally, I thought the Mark Hamill, Freddie Prinze Jr., that type people he's worked with previously definitely seem like, oh yeah, of course, if you can get him.
Matthew Lillard. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be stoked about that. I mean, I was like wondering. I'm like, all right, did anybody see Mark Hamill in London, or was he still in London?
That's
from
what
the
I was
Star Wars
wondering. It's like,
shoots?
yeah. Well, and you got Patrick Stewart and people like that. They
Oh,
also want,
God.
which would be really cool.
Oh, if they got Patrick Stewart, I would just.
Could you
I would
imagine,
be in
like,
heaven.
the captain of your Bengal carrier or whatever in Squadron 42 is Patrick
Oh,
Stewart? He's giving you, like, orders like engage and crap
oh
like
my
make it
God.
so.
I'd never
Oh,
leave.
it would be hilarious. I would totally laugh every time, but totally just, keep playing the missions over and over just to hear it too.
The
So,
nerdgasms would be strong.
make it so. And then we have Spectrum News. So, not a lot in their intro segment anymore. I think it's because they've done Spectrum News that they don't really talk about what's going on with the game and they let the studios talk about it, which
Right.
I kind of like, but I also kind of miss Ben's little like reactions on everything too.
Yeah, I
So,
agree with you there. It's give and take. I like that we're getting it directly from the horse's mouth with each
mhm.
studio, but at the same time, I really like Ben. So like,
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, I want Ben's little,
well,
happy commentary.
like the Ben and just their whole show in general, Sandy and him and their dynamic has like really grown on me. Like it's so awkward, but it's kind of got a charm because of the awkwardness.
Yes.
I don't know.
I remember still when they got rid of Wingman's hanger, and I was like, "This sucks. I'll never be happy with this." And now I'm like, "This is really good."
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, they've done so many of them. I mean, they're way ahead of us in show numbers. I don't even know what episode we're on, but it's like,
25. This is 25, dog.
oh man, oh man.
Right? This is our
We can we
what's
our
the
episodes
25
can
year
rent a
silver?
car now legally. That's awesome.
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
this our silver anniversary? Is that what 25 is?
I
I don't remember.
I think that's by
I don't.
years and not weeks. I'm just throwing
Hey,
that out there. Yeah.
we can co-opt it in any way we want. This is
Okay.
our show.
All right. Well, silver anniversary it is. All right. So game back off the segue. Sorry. Spectrum News. Santa Monica was with Darian and Lisa, and I forgot to write down Lisa's last name because she's the new producer, but
Yeah.
at least wrote down her first name so I can remember that. They were talking about what they're working on. They've got the sandbox gym map has been built, which is kind of like their AI test environment. So it's going to be allowing them to try out a bunch of NPC interactions that they normally wouldn't get to do until it was put in game. So cool.
Yeah.
The Genesis Starliner as its concept work is being done, where I don't know, I don't think I'll get one, but I could totally see it being like something that I'm doing an escort mission for or things like that.
Right. Well, it's kind of the same way with the 890 jump, right? It's like, yeah, it's a
Right.
cool ship, but I have no desire to have one.
Well, it's like when I had my the Phoenix 300 or no,
Right.
sorry, Phoenix Constellation. I no, like I got it because it was cool, but like I totally scrapped it as soon as the Reclaimer came out and was the same cost. So I prefer function over awesome looking
Yeah.
typically. Yeah. Well, and then we have patch 1.1.0a, which I don't know if that number is actually right because isn't
I don't know. That was
isn't
confusing.
Alpha 1.1.1 now?
Yes.
I don't know. All right.
That
So
was they might
they,
have just misspoke is my guess.
or I wrote it down wrong in my note. I don't know.
Could be.
So then they were also working on the patch which has come out, which is Star Citizen Alpha 1.1.1, nailing it every time. I'm on fire. So that's what Santa Monica was largely working on. Ilphonic, we had Dave and Travis. The SATA ball prototyping is done, so yay. Now they're going to actually start and try and implement it. Full body look poses in 0G. They showed a little bit of preview in the video, so like your whole body moves, not just your torso. 0G previews are done, so cool. Hopefully that means FPS is coming out soon. Just cough, throwing that out there. You're not supposed to say cough. You're supposed to actually cough, but
Yeah.
Rework of weapons and gadgets via VFX to make them line up with how the ships will look has been done as well. So they're trying to make it consistent between the starfighters and the handguns for a look of how like energy blasts look the same, ballistics look the same, etc.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have. Sorry, good.
No, that's all I was gonna say. That's
Oh,
cool.
I was
Cool,
interrupting
cool.
you. I always interrupt you. No, it's not fine. It's never okay.
Fine. No, it's okay.
Austin, Texas, we had Nathan and Jake. Tony, whoever the heck Tony is, I'm not sure. I feel like that's a name I've heard before, and I probably would recognize him if I saw him. But Tony has started work on the Pioneer occupation, which is kind of their exploration. So, cool. I feel like that's something I'm probably going to do a lot of since I have a freelancer Dur,
Right.
You know,
And I will join you. I will co-pilot for you.
I feel like it's going to be a fun thing, especially early on, to like explore jump
Yeah.
points and find places and all that. That's another reason I went with the Dur instead of like the Max or the Misk or one of the other variants.
Right. I think the first couple weeks of this game are going to be just like
Fly all
so
over
fun
hell.
for for explorers. I mean, and I think it sounds like it's still going to be fun since the hyperspace lanes only stay open for so long or whatever.
Right.
So,
I'm thinking like when the game does drop, I'll have to take like PTO for that first week.
I know.
Because let's face it, I'm not going to be any good at work for that first week
No,
anyway. It would be good to take the time off and like play a bunch.
I will not be getting any sleep that week. I
It'll
already
be
know it.
it'll be a good week. Um, blah blah blah. What else were they working on? Animations for grabby hands. No idea what grabby hands is, but I think they were talking. It's like how you grip and manipulate items in game. So like you pick up a hammer, it looks good. Pick up a gun. You're like searching somebody's body. How does the animations work?
Yeah, that's good because that's one thing that's super glitchy right now. Anytime you try to like grab something, it
Well,
just like either completely misses or
well, and I hope
doesn't look
they add
right.
button pushing animations. Like as much fun as it is to click the use button, I would like to have like a button I press on my Hornet that lowers the ladder and then I climb up it, that type of thing.
Yep,
Or like I hold up a pass key that I swipe or something like that. Same with
exactly.
like interior door stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
And we also have rework of shopping. They're trying to make things different depending on the type of the shop. So they gave some examples like Cubby Blast isn't necessarily going to work the same as Astro Armada. You'll be able to buy the guns and like peruse them more, whereas Astro Armada, you'd like have a hologram of the ship that you'd look at before you actually purchased it. You wouldn't necessarily be able to take it to a back room and try out the ship like you can in Cubby Blast. So,
Right.
that's pretty cool. I just don't want it to be so unique that it's like difficult to figure out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's one thing they're going to have to really try and balance here is not making things overly complicated because that can happen really easily. And personally, I usually don't mind that,
Hmm.
but I know a lot of people don't like that, so I'd be afraid of
Well,
it
yeah,
causing issues.
it's always that balance of in depth enough to keep your attention, but like simple enough to not like
Right.
frustrate you.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Then we got Foundry 42 in the UK, which is Luke and Danny. They've been working on the Arena Commander tutorial, which they gave us a little bit more information about. They'd said, like in the past, oh, we're working on a tutorial, but not a lot about what it's going to be or anything involved. So these guys were telling us that it's going to be kind of like a military flight exercise, so you'll have like basic flight controls, working with your ship's systems, practicing taking off, practicing landing. Then there'll also be like combat drills, and there's even going to be an asteroid hangar with a full interior and exterior that they'll then port over to multiplayer free flight. So awesome.
Yeah, that's all just freaking awesome. That's really really cool stuff, especially the asteroid hangar. Like the
Oh
rest of it,
yeah.
I expected.
Mhm.
The asteroid hangar, I'm like, oh yeah.
Well, that's going to be like almost to the point where this is how the game's going to work then, where it's like, oh,
Right.
you can land on objects, take off from objects, walk around once you've landed, explore, all that. And yeah, it's going to be a square box, but who cares? It's still awesome.
Exactly. Yeah, you and I tried landing on some asteroids in Arena Commander, and it didn't go so well.
Emphasis on tried. Yeah. Well, technically, the landing gear did touch the rock,
Yes.
and then we blew up. But it touched for like 0.2 seconds or something. It was
It was
great.
just like the SpaceX Falcon 9 tried to land again yesterday, and it touched, and then it fell over and blew up.
Oh man. Good times. And then something they've added with this one. They'd mentioned it last week, and I totally forgot to submit the video of you ramming me. By the way,
Oh,
yeah. Oh well.
theirs was better anyway.
Yeah, theirs was better. I feel like we need to play more so we can have more ridiculous things that we can then submit. I'm just throwing that out there.
All right, yeah,
I
I'll
feel
try
like
and play more.
I feel like when FPS comes out though, that's where we'll definitely get the ridiculous videos because I know we're
Oh
gonna
yeah.
play the heck out of that and stream it always. So yeah.
Yep.
So for that, we had the first video they showed was Extreme Chafing, a fan video where they essentially had a bunch of ships landed on this platform. There was a dude walking around, and then a ship flew by, and like the two ships were hovering above, and all of them chafed at once. And apparently, when you do that much chafing, It kills people. So chafing, which is
Chaffing.
the is it chafing? All right.
Yeah.
Well, I know if you do that much chafing, it also kills people. So yeah,
Nobody likes that much chafing.
it really sucks when you chafe that much. Then they cut from the fan video, where they still are accepting submissions. So, if you got an awesome video, feel free to submit and let us know about it, and we'll talk about it because,
Yeah.
we like fan submissions. From there, they cut to Art Roundtable, where they had Jenny, Patrick, Vanessa, Josh, and Lee, and some dude whose reflection was in the mirror in TV that, we probably weren't supposed to see. Haha, caught it.
Yeah.
They were pretty much doing an art roundtable with everybody, and a lot of these guys will work on levels and like particle effects and things like that. So they went into them. One of the things they're really excited about is the levels are starting to look incredible with super high quality. So and the white boxing starting to happen, and that includes the animations, mocap, all that stuff. So super excited. I want to see Terra, I think, the most.
Yeah.
Because, like, we've
I think-
seen ArtCorp now enough that I kind of have a feel for it.
Yeah, I think Terra's gonna have a lot of variety compared to ArtCorp. Like ArtCorp is gonna be
Right.
like, Blade Runner, Los Angeles,
Yeah.
and Terra is gonna be more like, I don't know, like Alderaan or something. I don't know. It's like,
All
like it's gonna have.
Let's go with the real world example. Then let's go with the fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because nothing looks that great on the real world. Is what
No.
Terra's gonna look like. Yeah.
Exactly.
I would say I like the variety they're giving us. So ArtCorp is like industrial. Terra is kind of like super like monumental style. Nyx is going to be like a hole in the wall. But I think like of all the locations, I kind of am most interested in seeing Spider, which is that massive like station of all
Ooh,
this stuff put together. So
that will be really cool too. Yeah, you're right.
yeah. I kind of feel like Spider is probably where I'd like to hang out the most, but it also depends on its location and the galactic map, which should come eventually, quote unquote, so
Right.
we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Yep.
Some of the other stuff they mentioned was they wanted the attitude and personality of the environments to be obvious, and that includes, how it looks, how it feels, how you interact with it. And
Sure.
then, they're starting to add some particles effects, holograms, space effects, nebulas, asteroids, all that stuff. So, cool.
Yay.
Yay! Then we had our second fan video. For Great Science fan video, it's a M50 trying to dock with a constellation, which I'd actually seen on Reddit previous to this, because it was hilarious.
It's hilarious. It is
Yeah.
really funny.
It was
It's like you think it might be possible. You're
like-
watching, you're like, oh, this might work.
Yeah,
Then
when
they
he
cut
flips
to
upside
third
down.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then he cuts to third person. I'm like, oh no, this thing won't fit.
Never gonna fit. The wings are too wide. But like he kind of got it in there when he died. So like
Yeah.
cool. Definitely can fit in. Definitely.
It's definitely gonna
Definitely.
fit. Definitely.
Maybe if you like removed the hangar door and just like had that open to vacuum, you could fit an M50 in there. So like fly around with your constellation, just have it drop.
That would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, but they'll never let us do that. Let's be real.
No.
Yeah, that'd be a little too ridiculous.
Yeah.
Then we had a interview with Will Weisbaum interviewing Sherry Heiberg. I think it's Sherry, or is it Cherry?
I
I'm
don't
going with
know.
Sherry. It sounds fancier, so I'm going with Sherry. So Sherry is their archivist. That job is essentially she helps organize their information and is writing their Galactipedia. So cool.
Yay.
That's something we'll eventually get to see once it's fleshed out. Although it sounds like it's going to be a giant pain in the butt to work. When she was talking about this, I'm totally like, I have that personality where I would be perfect to help her with something like this.
You're
I
just
really-
trying to weasel your way into CIG.
I really would. Like, but I'm the guy who put together a website of the Star Wars role-playing game rules. That's super
That's true. You
in-depth.
did. No,
So
you actually, yeah, you would be really good at this. This is something I would not be really good for because
Oh,
I'm not organized enough.
well, I don't think it's organization so much as anal retentive. You're not anal retentive enough.
No, that's true too. I'm none of those things.
I am all of those things.
Yes, I know. I'm aware.
I got the T-shirt. I saw. Yeah. So some of the stuff that's going along with her writing of the Galactipedia, she found that too much of the information is spread out over too many places, and so many people have different priorities for what they want to use. So she's switching over to an asset-based system and organization, which Chris Roberts really liked. And I thought one of the funny things Will Weisbaum mentioned was they have a BCR versus ACR for where stuff is in development. So it's before Chris Roberts and after Chris Roberts. I'm like, oh, that's such a great. We should use that all the time for everything.
I like that. I think we'll have to incorporate that into our into our vernacular.
Yeah. Well, and then a little bit of background on her, on Sherry. She's got a master's degree in library science. She wrote a master's paper about preserving video games and the history, and that sounds pretty awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. She's also working on migrating the information to a new system once it's set up, and then that information, like I said, will move to the public as the Galactopedia, but no ETA on when that's going to happen, unfortunately. But the cool thing is there'll be like a ton of in-depth information on each planet, which is actually bad for someone like me that goes and reads all the background information. So if there's so much information, I'm that jackass who reads it all. Like,
Yep.
yeah, that's
I
not
know.
good for me.
You're gonna be like finding nitpicks. You're gonna be like, oh, actually,
Actually,
standard
the
parameter would be
Tavaran did not settle this planet until the year. We laugh because it's
uh,
totally true and something I've done in the past. Ugh, I hate
yeah.
myself sometimes. I'm just throwing that out there.
Hey, but somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to be that pedantic bastard.
Yep, that's this guy. Two thumbs pointing right here. Uh, and then the last thing she mentioned was, well, not the last thing, but the last thing I wrote down that she mentioned was she's most excited about reading more about the Tavaran background. So, that'll be cool. I look forward to also finding out why we destroyed their homeworld and
Yeah,
pillaged and all that, because let's face it, we're humans. We totally do stuff like that all the time.
we pretty much do. So I'm
Yeah.
really excited about this. This is actually one of the things that I'm most excited about in the lore is the Tavaran stuff. So,
I would like to start a Tavaran resistance movement and win them back their homeworld. That would be sweet.
ooh, I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm in.
Endgame content right there, man.
I'm in.
Yeah. And then we had Bug Smashers, which went from 30 minutes and 25 seconds to 35 minutes and 14 seconds. I always include the times in case people want to skip it because, like us, a lot of people don't like Bug Smashers. At least that's how I feel. A lot of people don't like Bug Smashers. I don't know.
I never hear anyone praising it. I'll put it that way.
That said, I felt this one was the appropriate length and wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
So,
this one was tolerable.
I did like the background he had, where it's an old programmer jokes where it's like 99 bugs of code on the wall, 99 bugs of code, fix one error, compile your program, 127 bugs of code found. Yeah, that's an old programmer joke that, but it's still funny. Um, so the bug for this one was the ship killing the player. He was flying around in a gladiator, and like the physics for the player was getting reset so that the player would end up smacking into the ship and dying. So that's hilarious, but
Oops.
not something you want to happen.
No.
So essentially, the problem was it was loading assets in random order, which didn't reset the collision information, and bad stuff happened, ensued. Blah blah blah.
Whoops.
Yep. Then we had our outro, which they talked about the Gamescom tickets, so check that out if you want to go to the Gamescom. I don't even know where that is this year. If it's the same place every year, I don't know.
No, uh, no, I don't remember.
Yeah, well, that's something I should have written down, but didn't. Oh well.
Maybe it is in the same place. I might be confusing it with where they're going to have the Star Citizen Town Hall this year.
Oh, well,
Uh,
The one thing they were mentioning is they're going to try and get away from just Chris Roberts giving a presentation, and they want more for people to do. So they're going to bring more members of CIG out, which I like and I hate at the same time.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Where I'm like, yeah, it's dumb for Chris to always just give a speech because how much more new information can he really give? But at the same time, I want all these people working and finishing the game quicker. So
Right.
the more people they pull out, I'm kind of like, dang it. Yeah, but they also deserve a break every now and then, and it's probably helpful for them to meet fans and talk to them and get ideas. So, I'm torn.
Yeah, I mean, maybe for me, it's like I just really like, Chris as a presenter. Like he does such a good job. He's a great natural speaker.
Well, he's
And
enthusiastic is the thing.
right, that's
Like,
part of it.
I bet you watch a speech of him like talking about diversifying stock portfolios and like blah blah blah. It wouldn't be as dynamic as check out this ship shooting lasers, dudes.
Right.
I mean, it's completely different, material, which helps.
Yeah. Well,
So
we'll see. Oh, so Gamescom is going to be in Cologne, Germany. I just looked it up. So,
nice.
and I think that is where the Star Citizen Town Hall technically is too. It's like at this event, I believe, if I remember
All
correctly.
right. Well, get your passports ready, unless
Right.
you live in Germany and can just drive over.
Or if you're in any, actually, if you're in any EU
Yeah.
country, you don't need a passport.
So what you're saying
think-
is everybody in the EU locked out, and us Americans have to dust off our passports.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Brits. The Brits aren't technically part of the EU in that sense, I don't think. Or I could be wrong on that. I don't remember.
I think they can go through the tunnel. I wonder if you need a passport to go through the tunnel or by ferry or any
Yeah,
of that.
you might be right. They might not need it either.
I
I
have
can't
no
remember.
idea.
Yeah, I'm not a European.
I'm
I've
not a
only
European.
been there once.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on, we've got the design post for FPS stances and breathing, which we're going to be talking about. They also mentioned the Super Hornet and Gladiator available, so we'll mention that too actually in a little. Free Flight Turreting and Foundry 42 Frankfurt team. So all these things are coming up in like a couple of minutes. And then their sneak peek was of a drone, which looked really cool, but I wasn't sure what type
Yay.
of drone it was.
Who knows? I would guess mining since they're pretty gung ho on that, but who the heck knows?
Well, I assume the mining and salvaging drones are going to be like virtually identical, so
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't see any reason for them to be that different.
I mean, one cuts and removes stuff, and the other one cuts and removes stuff. I don't get,
Yeah, there's probably not much difference there.
I would assume not, but what do I know? So let's cut over to Inside CIG Foundry 42 Germany. It was a 7-minute, 40-second video, so fairly short. It was a tour of their Germany office, and I kind of like the fact that it was in both English and German. Like, they didn't try and make their German host talk in English, they just did subtitles. But I kind of wish they had done German subtitles for when the English host was talking.
Yeah, that would have made a little more sense.
But whatever.
Yeah.
I assume they think, since most of the backers are located in like Britain, America, and most Europeans learn English, that it's
English.
fine to keep it in English.
Yeah.
But still, whatever.
Yeah.
Although I think like speaking in the native language is a smart choice because it helps bring across personality.
Yeah.
Better. So yeah. So it was Brian Chambers and Alex Marshall showing off what's going on. Basically, like the gist is they're working on the engine, upgrading the engine to work how they want it to, and they're utilizing the people that initially helped design and make the Cry engine. So it's going pretty cool.
Yep, picking up the pieces of CryEngine as it falls apart.
Well, it sounds like they're revamping quite a bit just to make it, more Star Citizen specific. And with this last patch, a lot of people were commenting on how the resource management was so much better on their PCs. So
I'm
clearly
getting
it's
much better
working.
performance. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot less slowdown and chop for sure.
Yep.
So that's pretty much the gist. They had a couple of interviews with specific members of the team, but it was
Right.
quick 30 seconds here or there. Anything you want to add about the Germany office?
No, they didn't really go too in depth. Other than what we covered was pretty much the major points.
Yeah, I like the ridiculous amount of drinks that they had in containers in that one office.
Oh
Where it was,
God.
like boxes upon boxes.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's a programming office. They've got every kind of drink imaginable, and everybody is like crowded together with like too little space. That's definitely
Exactly.
it. Yeah. Then let's cut to Subscriber Flare April, which we're not going to talk about a lot because it's just one thing, but it's the Carthu All ship model for the Xi'an, which looks really cool actually. So
No, I want.
you should have been a subscriber.
I know. I keep saying that I
Yeah.
should have been a subscriber. I should have been a subscriber, but I know I'd regret it after I looked at my checkbook. So I'm good.
Yeah.
Good. Swear.
You swear? Okay. Well, then we had the design post, FPS stances and breathing, which is the thing I am most excited to talk about this week because, dude,
So cool.
dude, like it doesn't like seem groundbreaking on the surface, really.
Right.
But I like the way that they're kind of trying to balance based on stamina, like because that makes sense to me, you know.
Hmm.
So let's get into it. So first up, there's three types of stances. There's the lowered stance, the ready stance, and the ADS stance, which is ADS is short for aim down sights. So your lowered stance is your fastest movement where you can run, jump, climb up walls, parkour crap. Um, but you can't really fire that well. You're shooting from the hip, and you kind of need to switch to a different stance before you can shoot.
Yep. And
Um,
this is like probably the stance that I'm going to be using the most. I'm a fire from the hip kind of guy.
which means you're never gonna hit anything. God, you like I totally see running around a lot, but like the next stance is kind of the one I figure I'll be in 90% of the time, the ready stance, where you got your weapon ends on your shoulder, but you're not looking down the sights, and you kind of do like a walk movement, but it's not like a slow walk, it's a decent walk. It's got better aim, but it's not like, specific aim. That's probably the one I'll probably stay 90% of the time in.
Yeah, this is. I was joking before. This is the one that you'll actually be
I don't know,
using
I've
the
seen you
most.
play crazy some nights, and I don't
That's
think you're as
true.
joking as you think you are.
If I get in the right moods in Call of Duty, I would just never even look down the scopes. I'd put on that perk that made your hip fire better,
Right.
and I just go bazonkers doing that.
I recall. I also recall nights where like we literally just ran sprinting, knifing people, and that was all we did. So
Oh, that's so fun.
yeah. So I'm like, I don't think you're joking as much as you think you're joking.
I'm somewhat joking. It depends on my mood.
Yeah. Well, and then we have the ADS stance, the aim down sight stance, which is a slow walk. Your camera focuses down the sights of the gun, and it's best for shooting accurately. And with each of these different stances, you're going to have a different HUD that will show. So like you lose your peripheral vision when you're aiming down the sights. Your peripheral vision is probably the best when you're in your lowered stance because you can look around, you see what's going on. And like it's not going to be like, oh, I have to press this button and now I'm in this stance and I have to press that button. It's more intuitive than that. Like you're automatically in a lowered stance if you're sprinting. You're automatically in an ADS stance if you're like in the right trigger of your mouse. So
Right.
it does take time to switch between the different stances, though. Keep that in
Sure.
mind.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, the biggest difference here is from most other first-person shooters is the lowered and the ready stance kind of
Right.
being separated. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Which makes total sense because if you're running around like a maniac, you're not going to be thinking how to aim your gun.
right, because yeah, it's pretty absurd in Call of Duty how you can just be sprinting around and all of a sudden quick up to your
360
scope
no
and
scope,
yeah,
dude.
exactly. Exactly, which
Yeah.
I love, for that type of game. But this is not going to be that type of game, so it's good they're,
Yeah.
fleshing it out like that.
Yeah. And this is subject to balancing and blah 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 blah. But it sounds pretty good to me. So
Yep,
I can't wait
I
to
agree.
play it. Then we've got breathing plus stamina. So essentially, the way this works is the more you do, the more your stamina you're going to use up, the more negative effects you'll incur, and you'll have to wait for it to recharge before you can start doing stuff. And that indicator is going to be based on how heavily you're breathing. Your equipment and your armor will impact this stamina consumption as well. So if you like wear heavy armor and you're running around a lot, you're going to burn through your stamina quicker than if you're wearing medium armor. And light armor is even better. So it depends on what you're
Makes
doing.
sense.
Like if you're going to be moving around slow all the time, you might as well wear heavy armor because
Right.
that would make sense for you. If you're going to be running around trying to be mobile, light armor. If you're trying to be a jack of all trades, go medium. Unless you like burning through your stamina and huffing and puffing for some reason.
Yes,
So,
everybody likes that.
oh yeah, totally. With that lower stamina, your gun sway is going to increase as well, which makes your accuracy go to crap. So keep that in mind as well. And they've even gone in depth enough that your breathing will impact your accuracy. So if you fire while at the top or bottom of a breath, you'll have the least amount of movement, and your shots will be the most accurate. So you can kind of up your accuracy even more if you time it for with the breaths.
That's interesting. I
Yeah.
wonder if this will apply to rifles as well, because I could have
Oh, I'm
sworn
sure it
that
would.
when you're well, but I could have sworn when you're shooting sniper rifles, it's actually best to inhale and as you're exhaling, take the shot. I thought when I watched that movie about the sniper in the Iraq War, I thought that's how they taught him to shoot, but I could be wrong. That's what I Could have sworn that was the case, though.
Well, with sniping, like at the long ranges, I think they say like everything impacts it from how you're like positioning your body, how you're breathing, how your heartbeat goes, all that. So
Right.
like, I don't know how in depth they're going to get. I assume not that in depth, but this would totally impact sniping, if you're trying to shoot while your breath is all over the place.
Sure, and that makes sense. I mean, I'm fine with the mechanic if it's at the top or bottom of your breath
Right.
and it works across the board. I'm totally fine with that. I wouldn't complain. I'm just like curious, like because they really went in depth on this
Yeah.
and they clearly like talked to some like military people about this. So
Well, and then you can also hold your breath, which will lower your stamina quicker, but that only really works in the down the sights aim. So
right,
that I assume is going to be more for sniping too, when you're like, all right, I have to make this shot. I can't wait for the top or bottom of the breath. Let me hold it real quick so I can shoot.
right,
Yeah.
which is a cool mechanic.
That'll be,
Very
yeah.
cool.
Well, that's been in games before too. Like Call
It
of
has.
Duty did that, so
Only for sniping though, not for
yeah.
aim down scopes, which will be cool.
Yeah, it's for anything, so you could do that with pistol too if you wanted, although I probably wouldn't. I don't know.
No.
Unless like, unless I want to like have a reputation for being like a really good gunslinger or some crap.
I don't. I don't really plan on using my hold my breath stuff too often. When I might quick use it, you know what I mean.
Right.
But I don't plan on like sitting there for like 5 seconds, and being like, okay, now I shoot. Like I don't know. I
Uh,
plan on just being quick about it.
It's all situational. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah. Well, and then we have a breakdown kind of full stamina breath pattern. So 1 second pauses at the top and bottom of each breath is going to be how much time you have to shoot before it starts messing with your aim. There's 2 seconds to move from the top to the bottom of the breath, so the full cycle is going to be 4 seconds right there, which is not a lot of time. So.
Right.
And then there's a left and right sway and up and down limits. It's kind of dictated by what weapon you're using and the attachments and how heavy it is, all that stuff. And then it's also kind of determined by the modifiers on the weapon sway for how much it's going to move as well. So that's kind of cool, actually.
That is very cool.
And then if you have no stamina breath pattern, you're going to have very short pauses at the top and bottom of each breath. It's about 0.2 to 0.3 seconds. So this is when you've ran a bunch and you're like, breathing heavily. Very rapid up and down travel time to about 1 second. And the left and right sway and up and down limits are going to be on the top of the base weapon and attachment values. Your up and down, left and right will be kind of determined by the weapon still. Modifier still, but then holding your breath is the active part of the breath system, so you can hold, but that's only going to last for so long still, so it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And then if you have full stamina and you hold your breath, you've got to hold whatever the key is going to be. The sway is reduced to 0 for the duration. You can hold your breath up to 10 seconds before you need to release the key, and you release the key, you'll have sway for about 3 seconds after. And the modifier will be a bit more extreme than it normally is with the other sway.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, this is pretty similar to how sniping worked in Call of Duty games in some respects. Although you can hold your breath a lot longer. 10 seconds is a long time.
Yeah, yeah. You could probably, depending on like how good you are, probably get a couple of decent headshots, like at least 5 in that time.
Oh yeah,
So-
absolutely. If you're very good, yeah.
Yeah. Breakdown of no stamina breath hold. For this one, you've got a hold key will be good for the hold breath. The sway is reduced to 0 for the duration, but you can really only do it for 1 second before releasing, and the release will create a sway for 6 seconds. So, the sway is longer and the hold is less if you've already run most of your stamina into the ground before you try and hold the button.
Right.
So, pretty cool.
Yeah.
I just want to play it so bad.
I know. It's
Like
like they keep talking about it, and I'm like, just give it to me.
Every day I'm like, is it in the PTU yet? Is it in the PTU yet? Because, as soon as it's in the PTU, it's about a week or so before it
Yep.
comes to us, unless they find some major problem. So,
Right.
let's go to the note from the chairman, version numbering. So for this, he talked about why they went with the system they went, and like the controversy that surrounded the Star Citizen 1.0. So now they're calling it Star Citizen Alpha, and with each of the various points, they're doing different releases for what's coming up, and they gave us an example of the next four, one of which we've gotten already, which is Alpha 1.1.1. Nailed it.
Still nailing it.
It's the primary arena commander improvements is what's going with that one. That's got the multi-crew turreting, all that stuff. So pretty sweet and sexiness. And they've also released with that, a bunch of new stuff, and old stuff has been re-released, like the Super Hornet torpedoes, Cutlass Black, Gladiator, blah 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 blah.
Right.
All the early game dual seaters.
Yep.
Alpha 1.1.2 is going to be a code stability bug fix patch for pre-Star Marine, so it's getting ready for loading Star Marine. So hurry up and release that, please, CIG, so that Star Marine can come quicker. Then Alpha 1.2.0 is Star Marine, and then Alpha 1.3.0 is Social Module, but we have no time frame on any of those three, so...
Well, not really. I mean, this summer is supposed to be Social Module, without a real date, than...
I'm guessing Star Marine's probably going to be, like, last week of April, first week of May. At least that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, when I'm on vacation.
Yeah, but for my birthday it would be nice.
My birthday too.
Yeah, but my birthday is the one that matters.
I see how it is. All right,
yeah, that's how it is. And then the Social Module, I'm thinking, will probably be like June or July. But, the way it works, it's going to be pushed back. They always are.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about Star Citizen Alpha 1.1.1. Nailing it still.
You're just on a roll today, man.
On a roll. I hope I never have to say it again, frankly, because it's really annoying to keep saying that. So we got a new missile with this one, the Torpedo. You can see them on your Gladiator for anybody that owns one. They look sexy.
They're really cool.
Yeah, I want to shoot one at a person just to see what happens with the explosion.
I saw some videos of them, and I'm like, those are so cool.
Yeah, they look really good. The Cutlass Black, like I said, has been put on availability again. It's $100 for the ship standalone and $115 for the package. The Super Hornet is back. It's $165 for the ship and $180 for the package. And the Gladiator is back. It's $165 for the ship and $180 for the package. So the same as the Super Hornet.
Yep.
Well, and I shouldn't say back. It's introduced.
Right. Go buy, people. I think we just broke 79 million the other day.
Yeah, I think we're at like 79,050,000 something when I checked it earlier. It's good times. You think we're gonna break 100 by the end of the year?
Easily.
Yeah,
easily.
I'm guessing like when Star Marine comes out, that's gonna be a good 5 million on its own, right?
Yeah, hands down. Yep.
For people buying like armors and guns and equipment, and then
yeah.
After that, we'll get the Social Module, and like there'll be people walking around and like doing stuff, and that will get a couple more backers in that are like on the fence, and then those two might push us over, and then they'll have their anniversary sale in October again, which will probably get us to the 100 million.
That's like that's another 5 to 10 million right there.
Yeah, hopefully, crossing fingers. Although it really doesn't matter. Let's be real. They're good to go as is. It really doesn't matter. I just want it for like the record. That's it.
Yeah, they have plenty of money until the game comes out at this point. So
yeah. Well, and with Alpha 1.1.1, I had to say it one more time. We've got a bunch of balances and fixes. There's still like a lot of known issues, but I think this is the first time in a while we've had the known issue list is smaller than the fixes list. So. That probably just means they didn't put all the known issues on there.
Yeah.
One thing I noted also is inverted controls do not work in default turret camera view, which you were complaining about.
I found that out the hard way.
Yeah.
It makes it really hard to use a turret when you're used to inverted.
Well, maybe...
I know I'm weird, and don't you start. Don't you start.
You cut me off as soon as I was about to. It's like every time. It's like a Pavlovian response when you complain about inverted. I just have to tell you to not be odd and use good controls instead.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Inverted for life.
I should get you a T-shirt or a cap.
There we go.
Yeah. Inverted for
proudly.
Inverted or introverted, which is
People
better.
Like, is this like some kind of new like sexual preference? What's going on here?
Wow, I did not know where you were going with that. And I'm glad you went the way you did, because
Alright,
now that's out there.
I'm bailing. I'm ejecting on that.
Okay, all right. Moving on, we have the 10 for the Designers episode 2. It was 21 minutes and 14 seconds long. It was with Calix Renault and Matt Sherman. Um, so for this one, it was pretty cool, but there were definitely some questions that were not cool, but we always have those with 10 for the chairmans and producers and designers. There's always at least something.
Yep.
So let's jump right in. First question was about the repair system. Are they using real world examples to affect how they design it? And the short version is trying to, but at the same time they want to make it fun. So they're going to have a lot of simple mechanics, but they want those simple mechanics to be doing a lot of different things. So,
Yeah.
you
Their standard approach to things.
yeah, I don't know like if there's a good example to give for what that means.
I got nothing.
Like,
It's what they do. I don't know
Yeah.
how else to describe it. This is how they approach things.
okay,
They take real world examples, but they want to make them fun.
there you go. That was well put. Good job.
Thanks.
You nailed it.
Nailed it. Boom.
Nailed it. Boom. Physically challenged play. So this is a question about support for people that have physical problems with playing. So, either, some sort of disability and they can't use standard input devices or whatever. So, short version, there's only so much they can do with CIG, I think,
Right.
is kind of the gist I got from them. But they're trying to make what they can do as best as they can. So they're trying to give a wide variety of input device support, allowing you to remap devices, trying to give you options for how your controls are set up, and then at the same time give you options in game for specialization roles so that you don't necessarily have to be doing something that's more intensive control wise but is a better fit for you.
Yeah, and that makes sense. They'll do the best they can, but at some point,
Until we get
Yeah.
virtual reality,
right,
with
like neural implants, like
yeah, until we get that, it's always going to be an issue, I think.
yeah, exactly.
So, Sword Art Online is the next stage after Star Citizen. Calling it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. I'm in. I am so in.
I'm down. I can lay in bed for hours and control a video game. I'm totally down.
Exactly.
Get specialized chairs so you get a little more ergonomic and it doesn't kill you when you wake up. Just saying. Then we have the next question after that was multi-crew stations. So this has been asked and answered previously, right?
Yes.
Just I'm not imagining all those previous 10 for the chairmans where this exact same question came up, right?
Nope.
Okay.
No, you are not.
All right. Yes, you can allow your multi-crew subsystems to be specific and granularity and all that jazz.
There will be tons of granularity in this game. We know this. This
Yep.
is known.
There you go. Next question. Crafting. I'm just dropping it. I'm done. Drop the mic, move on. Crafting system. So this is something Chris Roberts is bringing up, and the players themselves are interested in, I think, very highly, because there's just not a lot known, because it's not really designed yet. But they want to make it so that players can make a name for themselves based on how good they are at making stuff. So you can be known as the guy who's great at making armor, or the guy who's great at making ship engines, or whatever. But they still want that to be based on skill and investment of time and research, etc.
Right. It sounds like they're relating it to overclocking your computer's CPU, which
Right.
Makes a lot of sense. I've never really dabbled in overclocking much. I've read about it, but usually things run just fine with my, quad-core i7, so I don't really feel like I need to mess around with it too much. But it's kind of interesting that that's how they're thinking about it.
Yeah,
That is a pretty intricate system,
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a need to be known as the guy who's the best at making something, but I like that the option is there if I do feel like
Yeah.
it. If I'm I want to be the guy who's the best at making a laser pistol, I can do that if I spend the time.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I do like
So-
that as well. I probably will never be one of those people, but
Right.
more power to people who want to do that, and I will buy your stuff. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, if you get a reputation, good. Hopefully, it's a
Exactly.
good reputation. Actually, if you get a good reputation, good for you. If you get a bad reputation, good for you too. But not always. The next question after that was the environmental impact on flying. So this was a question dealing with, uh, they kind of broke it down to how will the areas affect flight mechanics, and it's more the areas will cause your strategy to change than they're really focused on changing like how thruster output changes and drift and drag and all that stuff.
Right. I
So
mean, yeah, because this is somebody who clearly doesn't like the realistic physics of space
right,
combat that they've implemented in this game.
like,
So they're looking for an area where they don't have to fight in that area because they're
yeah.
probably used to playing the X-Wing series of games or some other the space flight sims that didn't have Newtonian physics.
Well, that said, I would like to see atmospheric combat feel different from space combat.
Oh, for sure, if it's ever implemented, yes,
Right.
I'm right there with you. But this is, yeah, I don't think they have any plans for atmosphere. It sounded like after this question because they didn't
Yeah.
really touch on it.
Although they
So,
easily could, apparently, with
oh,
CryEngine. So
yeah, it shouldn't be a problem at all. So it'll be interesting. It'll be cool. Like
yeah,
they likened it to the scene in the second Star Trek movie where they're in a nebula fighting each other.
yeah.
And, like they have to deal with the various effects. Yes, thank you.
Con!
Thank you for the obligatory con.
You have to. Like as soon as he mentioned that in the video, I was like, con! You have to.
It's true. It is.
It's required.
Obligatory. Yeah.
If I didn't do it, then I would have been disappointed in myself.
I would have been disappointed in you too.
Thanks.
No problem. But yeah, so it sounds like it won't affect your flying too much. It's more your systems and other things that'll be affected. So you'll have to, like you said, change your strategy.
Yeah, so like sensor range isn't as good, shields are down,
Right. Maybe your
you
weapons.
ignite plasma by flying through it.
Right. Exactly. Maybe your lasers, yeah, don't work that well because they get dissipated by the
Oh.
ion cloud for whatever reason.
No! That's horrible. I run all lasers. That's bad. I don't like that one. Take that
Take
back.
that.
I'd be all
Alright.
missiles and ramming then. Which is a bold
Well,
strategy.
Yeah, well, that's my strategy, so
Yeah,
it
just
sometimes pays off.
put your shields full forward and ram them. That's all you gotta
That's,
do, right?
that's how I roll.
Yeah. So then we have the Vanguard redundant system. So I think this was I don't think they got the question he was asking because
Yeah,
he wanted it so that you could have multiple loadouts and you could switch between loadouts on the fly, not
exactly.
the different parts of the ship do different things, which is the way they took it.
Yeah, I mean, it was good to have their answer like clarified a little bit because it sounds
Yeah.
like okay, you can have two different shields and make the rear shield, better absorbing,
Right. Which is cool.
spread damage like missiles, and the
Right.
front one for absorbing direct. Like if you're assaulting like a capital ship, it makes sense to do that. But and yeah, it is cool. But you're right; they absolutely completely missed the point of this question.
Yeah. Which, quite frankly, I don't think you should be allowed to switch loadouts on the fly.
No
That
way.
seems stupid to me.
No way.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's stuff that should only happen in your hangar, I would think.
I agree. Or in like, a hangar of another ship.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that where it's parked, you can take the time to, take stuff out or rearm or whatever.
Exactly. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't work on your engine in your car while it's moving. Like, sorry guys.
You can't?
I know.
I knew I'd been doing
shocking.
something wrong all these years.
I mean, we could try it. Like, when you're up here this weekend, you can get on the roof of my car and
Okay.
like we'll try and fix the engine
Yeah,
while we're going.
you can pop open the hood and then I'll tell you which way we're going,
Right.
since I'll be able to see over it, but you won't.
Exactly. And we'll make sure to tie a rope around your waist and like tie it to the inside of the car for safety.
That feels safe.
It is safe.
Yeah.
So
We haven't
all
done,
right.
we haven't done something that stupid since we were like 17, but okay.
It's true.
Yeah. Oh man. Where were we? Oh yeah. Target vectors. I'm just leaving that question alone. Target vectors. So, this question was about could I feed other people the information? And they're like, yeah, you totally can. We even have a ship that does that called the Hornet Tracker. So, it'll combine targeting and communication and allow other ships to track ships outside of their sensor range by piggybacking off of yours, which is awesome.
That is very cool. Although I thought it was kind of interesting, when they asked if you could just like, if you would have to relay it via comms, and he
Right.
kind of laughed it off, like, yeah, I'd like to see a way to do that. I'm like, actually, I would like to see a way to do that, like
Well,
have some kind of nav points or
yeah, I want there
so
to
we
be
can.
Galactic North, dang it.
Right, exactly. That's exactly it.
If you had a Galactic North, you could do whatever you want.
Yep.
But there won't be. That makes me sad.
Why not just make the supermassive black hole in the middle of our galaxy, Galactic North? Seems pretty easy to me.
Yeah, and then yeah.
Anyway.
Oh well. Then we have the use icon, which we talked about a little bit before. They want to make it feel more immersive and have button pressing, but the problem is it's a pain in the butt to remove.
Right.
So it's so ingrained in their tech that like they've got to change it in so many spots. So hopefully eventually, but not right now.
I mean, I'm fine with it just being a visual change
Yeah.
and not like I don't mind just hitting F a bunch to do certain things. That's fine. I'm so used to that in other games.
Like if
It's
they
whatever
didn't
to me.
display the actual word saying use.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. If I just know that I can walk up to something, like there are games like that where
They like highlighted a color or
yeah,
something.
they just highlighted a color and then you hit E or F or whatever to interact with it.
And
That's
that would
fine.
work well with the Mobi-Glass, as like
Exactly.
a dynamic. Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah,
Uh,
you're
I don't
smart.
know.
You're thinking today. You're on.
I'm on today.
like it.
I'm nailing it left and right.
You're just all over the place.
It'd be like 1.1.1. Boom. Catchphrase. Oh man.
Oh my god.
Then we have the persistence duration. So the short version, they want to give people enough time to get their friends and come back to a instance and do salvaging or recover a ship or whatever it is they need to do. But there's a ton of open questions on that, and the actual timing duration hasn't been fleshed out mechanically.
Yep, it's in the same state it was the last time the question was asked.
Yeah. You noticed that too, huh?
I did.
I should just start marking these questions. Like, we should keep a tally every time we hear the same question. So, like, the next time somebody asks, if I have 2 accounts, right, and I want to use one as an NPC, but I don't want to pay him, right? Because it's my account. I can say I don't want the payment, right? So, like, the next time that question's asked, which is going to be like 923 or some ridiculously high number if we go back and actually tally it.
I know. We really should have kept a spreadsheet when we started the podcast, but like, here's the things that we keep repeating.
It's like from Team 4 Star, Freeze's count every time he hears the same phrases over and over again.
Like, or the Krillin own count.
Yeah. You bastard, you'll never get away with this. 923. Oh yeah, well we're going to F your face. Oh my, 13.
13. I understand it in some respects because we're constantly getting new people in the game.
Yeah.
And they want to know stuff, but at the same time, they could just listen to our podcast and know it all.
How dare they not listen to our podcast and know it all? How dare they? Oh, man.
All right, last question.
Last question. Formation flight, which I actually don't like what they talked about with this. I'm throwing it out there. So they're talking about maybe doing a system where you can move relative to your squad mate instead of the universe, and they're trying to figure out how that works. I don't want them to do this. I don't want there to be formation flight. I want it to be skill-based.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I don't see any reason for it.
If you want to fly in a formation, practice and work on your skills to fly in a formation like the Blue Angels do.
Right.
I'm just throwing that out.
I totally agree. I mean, like, so I would relate this to something like PlanetSide 2, which is a game where I've talked about before where I was a squad leader. Like, it was my job to train my squad to be in the right places at the right time, tell them where to be, and they knew how to follow me, how to breach a building, all this stuff. That you don't need like a helper system to do that. It doesn't take long to train people to fly in formation. It really doesn't.
It's like, hey, you be on my starboard, you be on my port. Done.
Right.
Yeah. Ugh.
Not complicated.
It's
I did.
frustrating.
It's frustrating.
It's frustrating. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't want them to add it. I just feel like it would take away from the skill aspect of the game where, if you want to have a cool formation and look baller, then you need to practice.
agreed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and then the last thing we had on today's agenda, it makes it sound official when I say agenda, Plain Truth, Calm Your Senator. So this was a written piece on the site where bill has been introduced to curb military spending by Kyle Polo, called the Polo Initiative. um, where essentially it sounds like this is kind of from the perspective of a radio podcast where they're like, oh, military spending, when's the last time you actually saw a vandal? We spend so much on this, but more people die to freight accidents and yada 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 yada.
Right. I liked it. I mean, it relates to modern day stuff. I really
Yeah.
felt like they missed an opportunity to have someone who is opposed to the Polo Initiative named Marco. But
That's great. This is why we're friends.
I know. But yeah, it's kind of interesting that apparently the Vandal haven't been messing with the UEE that much, or it could be that the UEE is not
Telling them everything, yeah.
exactly. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
But like, considering like how big of a problem the Vandal have been in the past, I kind of feel like this is just stupid. It's not like it's not like they went away, and haven't they wiped out entire systems and entire like strongholds of the UEE?
Oh yeah, they have. They've totally wiped out entire planets of UEE people, like just committed genocide, like
it would
on a
be
planetary
like
scale.
the only equivalent I could think is like if World War II had just kind of ended with like both sides surviving and us going, well, the Germans aren't that big of a problem. When's the last time you met a Nazi?
Right.
It's like, what? Like, it's okay if we've won the war to be saying this stuff, but if like there's a race out there that's hostile and wiping out whole systems, maybe we should keep up military spending.
Yeah, this is but no matter what, you're gonna have people that are gonna
Right.
be, no matter what the issue is, they're gonna have people on both sides of it. I mean, there's still people who deny the Holocaust happened, for Christ's sake.
Well, we have names for those people,
Yes, we do.
which we can't repeat on internet
No.
even. Yeah. Well, although the internet is the place to say names like that, if anywhere.
But we will not say those names on our podcast.
We're classy.
Upstanding citizens.
We're classy. We
Something
got class coming out of our pores.
Yes, always.
Anyway, the other thing they mentioned actually, which I thought was interesting, was the protests on Croshaw due to unfair depiction of the Tavaran. So that goes along with that. I feel like there's an undertone to this empire where there could be some sort of like potential uprisings happening, probably in game. I'm just throwing that out there.
Oh yeah. Well, you and I have talked about it in the past. We want to start a civil war.
Civil War, yeah.
Yep.
I feel like that would be the way to go. I feel like that would just feel right to be the leader of a revolutionary army.
Yeah, I mean, it would suit us pretty well.
Yeah. I don't even want to lead it, but I do want to start it or be involved with one. It's like,
Right.
if my mission is to like take out an Idris frigate here or there, to disrupt UEE patrols, yeah, let's do it. And then like pave the way because of all this infighting for the Vandal to come in and kill everyone. I feel like that would be pretty good.
That would be pretty sweet too. That would actually make a really fun like
Expansion.
time in the universe. Yeah, expansion or whatever, because it
Right.
sounds like it's going to be a living universe no matter what. But like, okay, so there's a UEE civil war,
Right.
and while the UEE's like beating up on each other, the Vandal just come in and just
God.
like almost conquer all of UEE, and it's like the UEE's on its last legs, and you got to fight for humanity's survival. That'd be pretty fun.
Yeah. Or you could just help the Vandal and wipe out humanity. I'm just throwing that out there.
Hey, we could do that too. Hey, if they pay me enough.
Something tells me the Vandal don't pay.
Well, if they guarantee my safety.
They'll pay, but it'll be like Futurama. It's death by snoo snoo
Oh,
with
well.
Vandal women.
All right.
All right. It's like I love that episode where it's like death by snoo snoo, and they're like horrified, but then they smile, and then
I
they're
know.
horrified, and then they smile.
So good.
High five, but then they're like, oh,
Oh, yay. Oh,
yay. Yeah. Any non-Star Citizen news you wanted to bring up?
I'm trying to think. Like, I mean, I haven't played a lot of new video games. Basically, I've been playing Rebellion a
Yeah,
bunch,
yeah.
and some Hearts of the Storm, Heroes of the Storm. Hearts, God, I'm confusing that with
Hearts,
Hearthstone.
Hearth of the Storm.
Yeah, Heroes of the Storm. I haven't really been playing any other video games. What else? I just watched an anime. I marathoned it actually. It was pretty good.
Oh,
Called
nice.
Shinseki Yorai, or in
Shinseki
English,
Yorai.
yeah, in English it would be From the New World.
Okay.
Really unique art style, and a really interesting premise. So the whole premise is it's post-apocalyptic,
As
and
90% of animes are.
yeah, more or less.
Yeah.
And but the remaining humans that are left, they're in small pockets across the globe, but they're all psychic.
Okay.
So they could do telekinesis. I shouldn't say psychic. They have telekinesis abilities. They can't actually read each other's minds.
Oh, sadness.
Right. And so it kind of deals with that, and like it's a really interesting world they create, and it follows this character from her early, youth when she's around, first grade, second grade age, all the way to when she's, like a 35-year-old woman.
Okay.
Really, really, really good.
How many episodes was this?
26 episodes.
Okay, so it's a pretty standard season then.
Yeah, standard season. The beginning's slow. It takes a little while to get going, but once it gets going, it is really good.
Nice.
I was very impressed.
The only thing I've watched recently was actually Daredevil. I marathoned that because it came out.
Oh yeah. How was that?
Pretty good, actually. Overall, I'd say, action-wise, it was superb. Plot-wise, it was above average.
Okay.
And acting-wise, it was above average. So I would endorse it, I would say.
Oh. All right. Might be something I check out at some point. I like Daredevil.
I would. Yeah, well, it was way better than Ben Affleck's.
Well, yes. I mean, in general, I like the character and I liked the comics. Have I ever told you about the fact that I used to have a Daredevil #1?
What did you do with it?
About this? No. So here's what happened. Okay, I found it at a garage sale. It was in crap condition. I mean,
it's still #1.
Exactly. It was the #1 issue of Daredevil, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we moved, when I was like 16, from one house to another, my mom threw it away. Yeah, I was so mad. I chewed my mom out. I still haven't forgiven her for it to this day.
I thought it was trash.
Well, it was in bad condition. I understand it.
I ever tell you about my dad's story about his comics?
No.
So my dad went to college, right? He had a Spider-Man one, a Superman one, a Batman one, a Justice Society of America one.
Oh my god.
And his mom had a garage sale where she sold all his comics for a quarter, the entire stack.
Oh my god.
So somebody got all of those issue ones for a quarter.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and he was like, "Are you kidding me?"
I would have just... That's way worse than mine.
But keep in mind, this was so far in the past that they didn't really know the value.
Right.
And so he wasn't terribly upset about it at the time. He was like, "Oh, all right, she sold them." I was gonna hold on to them, but they're just comics. It's not a big deal. But now, retroactively, if he had kept those,
that's Superman #1 alone.
Yeah.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah. So, I always think,
I physically hurt right now.
Yeah, right? Somebody got all those for a quarter, and who knows what they did with them, too. This could be somebody who, read them in the bathroom and then, threw them away or something, You have no idea.
This is actually, on the plus side for my mom, she learned a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Now they always check with me before they're going to do anything with my stuff.
Well, because it might not even be your stuff, considering how many things I've lost over the years at your place.
I think I gave you all your books back, didn't I?
I have no idea. I have a couple of missing books, but I don't know who I lent them to because it's been so many years.
I borrowed a couple of your Yevathan Fleet Crisis, whatever Star Wars books, but I thought I gave it back to you. Black Fleet Crisis. That's
you had #2 for a long time. You gave it back to me, and then I don't know what I did with it. I remember. I distinctly remember you handing it to me, and I don't know what I did with it after that. I'm worried that I put it somewhere, and then it got thrown away or moved or whatever.
Yeah, okay, good. Well, yeah, fortunately, actually, recently, my parents are probably going to move in a couple years, so they, gathered up all my stuff that was still at their house, and they're like, "Look through this. Tell us what you want.
Yeah.
What you want to keep, what you want to throw away," which is nice.
The only thing I still have at my parents' house is all the old Star Wars toys, which I actually checked in their value and they've like doubled.
Oh,
For all those. That's the only reason I kept them was because I knew one day they'd be worth more. But
you
still
use
not.
some of the original toys, don't you?
Oh yeah, I have like
Yeah.
chicken walkers and like snow speeders and the Rancor and you know all this stuff. Um, so that's all there. I also had like some of the newer ones that Kenner came out with in the '90s, which I have some unique ones of those too, like the Obi-Wan Kenobi with like the long lightsaber. Because when they released them first, there were certain like lightsabers that were like ridiculously long, like the same size as the characters, and then they did like a second version which was to scale the right size. But those ones with the longer ones are actually worth more money because they're rarer. So
Ooh,
I've got like a Darth Vader with a long one, an Obi-Wan with a long one, a Luke in like a pilot outfit with a long one. So you know.
nice.
Um, and then I also have all my Legos and stuff still. But the Legos aren't really worth money. They're just Legos and are awesome. So, yeah. All right, yeah. That's pretty much the only toys from my childhood that still exist in my parents' house. But I've got them all nicely packed away in a closet that I can pick up at any time. But my parents don't care because they're not really taking up space.
That's smart. Yeah.
I'm the only one of the kids, because I have a brother and sister. For people that don't know, I'm the only one that left my parents' place when I moved out with like my stuff in a nice, neat pile. The others just, it's all wherever. Who cares? And like remained that way for decades. Yeah.
Yeah, I moved most of my stuff out actually, but there was some that I left in there just because I was kind of, when I was in college, I was still living at home.
Yeah.
But anyway, whatever.
I digress.
I digress.
Yeah. Man, I'm still frustrated every time I tell that comic book story. That like, I remember my dad telling me that. I'm like, "You're screwing with me, right?" He's like, "No, no, totally." And I'm like, "Ah." I'm like, and we looked up the price of some of the ones he's had, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I had that one. I had that one." It's like 50,000 here in mint condition, 20,000 here in mint condition,
Oh
100,000, all this stuff, and I'm just like, "Are you kidding me?"
God, that's so brutal.
Yeah. But quite frankly, I don't know if he even would have sold them if he had still had them. He would have just kept them for, longer. Because why not?
Right.
Because at that point, it's more about having the awesome, valuable thing than it is about getting the money for the awesome, valuable thing.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm definitely that way where I prefer to have the awesome, valuable thing than to sell it.
Yeah.
I'd rather have it.
I never had
I like-
anything like super badass like that except for like Star Wars collectibles. I've got some nice stuff, but like none of
Yeah.
it's like super expensive. And
Yeah.
all of it's non-canon now too, so
Ah,
thanks
take
Disney. Thanks Disney. Appreciate it.
yeah, I'm not real. I'm not real enthusiastic about what Disney's doing, but we'll see.
Whatever.
That's all I got. That's ugh, God. Anyway, I'm done.
I'm done.
You done?
It's
I'm
always
done.
nice to end on a note of us complaining about Disney and Star Wars.
Isn't that how we always end? Like,
It feels like it. I have deep-seated emotional problems with relation to Star Wars now, I guess. It's like traumatic for me.
I can understand that.
Well, that's it for this week's therapy session. Anyway, that's it for this week's episode of The Flight Deck. We will catch you guys next week.
Peace.